has been so much better than me. And especially when it's my friends, it's a funny feeling because I'm used to being the person that they know and like, and and then they meet Jason and they just think he's extraordinary, and he is. And the thing is, I looked high and low for him. I went totally out of my comfort zone to even meet him and to stay in the relationship when things got uncomfortable, and to be myself in relationship with him, which I think is a big part of building a really powerful relationship and partnership together. But it came from doing some review, like what we're doing in the Last 60 Best60. When I was 34, I was doing a little review of my life, like I am doing with you with the Last 60 Best60. And I looked at all the areas of my life. I looked at my work, I looked at my family life, I looked at where I was living, and at the time Chicago, and I'm still here. I was looking at my friends and just evaluating everything. Do I love it? Is there anything I want to change? And at the time I was single and not dating. And I thought to myself, okay, like in the area of career, if I was doing this for 5 more years, would I be happy? The answer was yes. And in relationship to where I was living, geography, if I was living here 5 more years, would I be happy? And the answer was yes. And when it came to kids and I didn't have kids, I just thought, if I didn't have kids and 5 years from now, would I regret anything? And I was like, no, I would be fine with that. And then when it came to relationships and significant relationships, I thought, if I were in 5 years, if I were still single, would I be okay with that? And the answer was no. And not because, I guess it came from a lot of deep thought and deep reflection, and it wasn't so much just trying to fill that space, but I really found that I could be a great partner with somebody, and I wanted to live my home life with someone. I wanted to share my hopes and dreams with someone. I wanted to have the kind of friendship and partnership that I saw a lot of my married friends have. And so I took a look at my life, where I was teaching a lot of yoga, and lived a very good yoga teacher lifestyle. I went to bed early, I woke up early, I had a lot of time for meditation, I had a lot of time for yoga retreats. I really it was a good life for a yoga teacher. And then this insight of, oh, I want to be married, and I'm 35, and I'd like that to be in the next few years for many reasons. One, I just felt like, why not? But anyways, I really had to look at that and had to make some changes. And so around April of that year, I decided to just go on a blind date that someone suggested. And while that person was not a love connection, on the way home, I was talking to my very good friend Chris, and actually her husband was on the other line, and we were talking. I was telling them about this date, and I said, I had a really great time. It wasn't a love connection with him, but I think it would be fun to date. And the thing is, I was not dating. I'd probably gone on 3 dates in the 2 years before that for various reasons. And mainly because I like to go to bed early and be ready and prepared for my next day of classes. So I was talking to her on the phone, and she said, Lourdes, you should go on a date a week and just meet people. And I said, Chris, I haven't been on a date a month ever in my lifetime. I am truly a late bloomer. I didn't have a boyfriend until after college. And even that was just a really, just great friendship. And we actually were had a lot of disagreements. So a lot of times we were disagreeing on things, more around religion. And then, after that, I had one boyfriend for a really long time. And then after that, nothing. So I was a really late bloomer in terms of the whole dating scene. So when she said, go on a date a week, I was like, how am I going to do that? And I remember her response was, like when you're at Starbucks and making your tea, just look up, and if someone strikes you and he's wearing a nice tie, just smile and say, hey, nice tie. And that was kind of the beginning of my basically looking up and seeing that there were very eligible men around me. And some of them were looking at me. Like most of the time my eyes were down, and as a yoga teacher, I think I built up some like healthy boundaries that kept people at bay as a yoga teacher. But I think it also built up that wall around me at other times in my life. So I didn't notice that people were noticing me. So that year I did go on a date a week, and if I didn't have like a date, like someone, I just made myself go out with someone who was male, single, and heterosexual, because my tendency was to go to my safe place and just, hang out with my married friend or hang out with people who felt really safe because they were in a relationship, and I could just be myself. It was the hardest, I think it ended up being like 8 months of my life. Not like hard, like arduous, but hard because I really looked at myself and looked at the things that I needed to, that I wanted to change about myself. Like I didn't love that I, for example, would just show up and kind of be a chameleon and just be like, well, what do you like? And what do you want to talk about? Like I wasn't showing up like an equal partner. So I really found my voice in a relationship in that, time of dating. And there were some really bad dates and there were some really good dates. And sometimes the guy didn't even call me back. And sometimes I didn't call them back. And that was like a revelation, because I was like, oh, when they don't call me back, it's not because I'm bad or wrong. It just wasn't a click. And, like I didn't feel the connection. And so long and the short of it, I met Jason on one of those like once a week dates. And that was in November. So from April to November. And I had to go through a lot of really hard stuff of looking inward. And that is one of the reasons why I so strongly support this Last60 Best60. When you're not stressed, when you're not tired, when you have like a good 8 weeks to take some time and reflect, this is why we do the Last60. We're not doing, resolutions and vision boards in that last week of the year. We're taking some time. The first week, we just paused and reviewed. Like, look at what were the high points, what were the challenges, where are the places that we've been in the world that, were maybe for pleasure or vacation or pilgrimage, or, we had to face something, the challenges, the births, the deaths, the weddings, the divorces, the connections, the separations. Like, really take a good inventory. And the thing is, it's not just 2019, the end of the year, it's 2019 and end of a decade. Like, where were you in 2010? And so getting in touch with my purpose is super important for me as I prepare for my classes. And that comes from the kinds of reviews that I do every week, every month, every quarter, every year. Twice a year, actually, I do this kind of review. And before I started the magazine Illumine and just the idea of the Illumine life, I would have this feeling at the end of class, because this is how I felt. Like, I felt I just gave it all away as a teacher to get people to really feel in their bodies and get people to connect and get people to get the experience of being a warrior in their lives for their purpose and for their family and for their relationships. And I felt so lit up from teaching this way. So at the end of class, I would lead this guided meditation of just imagining there was a light in the center of our heart and in the center of our bodies. And with every breath, the light would just get bigger and brighter. And as we do that, like I would just say, well, that's the illumined life. Like when you are so connected, when you are on purpose, when you are in relationship with people who love you and adore you and admire you and respect you, like this doesn't come by accident. It comes on purpose. And it comes because we do the work ourselves of being authentic and connected and creative. And so this idea of an illumined life is very, very real for me. I think of it every day, a few times a day in my meditation. And I really want that feeling, whether you call it the illumined life or you feel like it's successful or you feel like you've achieved your goals and resolutions, whatever that idea is for you, in these 60 days, in the next 45 days that we have left in 2019, I would love to support you in really getting that. So this week, we're going to pause and visualize our most illumined life. In our most illumined life, just think about what that is for you. When you're so clear and connected to yourself and to your purpose, what does that feel like? Take some time this week to really notice that, to really remember when were moments that you felt that way. And that was a big part of the review. Where were you when you felt that way? Were you at home? Were you at work? Were you traveling? Were you running a marathon or running a 5K? Like, what were the things that you did that made you feel so alive? Who were the people that you connect with multiple times a week, a month, a year, so that you get connected and reminded of that goodness inside of you? And what relationships support that kind of living? Like, who's on your team? Who are the therapists, the social workers, the psychologists, the coworkers, our best friends, our mentors who really support us being that most illumined self? This is the purpose of the review, right? And then to measure, like, how am I doing with that? Am I a 10? Am I a 2? And that's all relative, but those numbers should mean something to you. Measure what is meaningful to you. Like, if relationships are meaningful to you, like, just look at the kinds of friends. Do you want more close, intimate friends? Do you want less close, intimate friends so you can have more quality time with a few people? Look at your life like that. And I have some exercises for you that I think are super fun. And if this is the first video that you're watching of Last 60 Best 60, welcome. You can catch up, no problem. Watch the other videos, the review and measure. And if you haven't done the exercises, but you've watched the videos, I really, more than ever, feel so passionate about you doing the work. Do the work, because if you're just a spectator, that's probably going to show up in your life. And I'm not making any judgment about anyone, but when you're a spectator, just think like you're watching the Super Bowl. Really different from playing at the Super Bowl. Time commitment is different. Muscle energy is probably different. Your investment in who wins or not is probably really, really different. And I want you to get that invested in your life. Live your most illumined life by participating in your life. Okay, so here's the exercises. Just make a list of 10 cool things about you and just be really honest. Take some time to do this, because at first we'll be like, well, what's so cool about me? And I will tell you there are cool things. You wouldn't have signed up if there's not cool things about you. So take some time, flip through your photos, look at your review, really think about like what are your top 10 or at least 10. Maybe you've got more. But one of the reasons why I think this is a really important exercise is because when we get to see ourselves as cool, as accomplished, and up to good things, like when we see that in ourselves, we're gonna plan differently. We're gonna want more of those things. We're gonna plan knowing that we did that. Like, it's a really important part of this, is to write the 10 things that are cool about you. And if you send me your 10, I'll send you my 10. And then the second exercise, well, this is technically third, if you did not yet do the review and the measure, is write down your top 5 movies, your favorite movies of all time. And if you download the sheet, I'll explain why. And if you email me your top 5 movies, I'm going to email you my top 5 movies, so you know. And then just let it soak in. Think about the cool things about you. Think about the top 5 movies, your favorite movies of all time. And just let that sink in. And then take some time, and I really want you to take some time. This is not like a 5-second exercise. It is about, I would give it an hour if you can, maybe 15 minutes on a few days, to really think about what is your most illumined life. When you think about the cool things about you, what does that lead to in terms of your most illumined life? What would that look like? What would that feel like? What would the numbers look like? What would your dinner parties look like? What would your bank account look like? What would your, the number of homes you own, the number of trips you have, like what would that look like to live your most illumined life? Take some time to write that out for yourself. Take some time to write down, like, what would that look like for you? Just write it out. Don't let the pen leave the paper until you feel totally complete about the description of your most illumined life. And then, towards the end of this week, so towards next Sunday, just take some time. Choose one thing that you can do to make progress on that this year. And you've got 45 days to take action on that. And action can be, like I said last week, like save some money every week. Action can be, I'm going to write 3 notes to people and tell them how much they mean to me. An action might be, I'm going to plan an awesome trip with my sisters. Just one thing. And it doesn't have to mean that you complete it. It doesn't have to mean that, you can afford to take a trip. It just means that you're taking action on one thing that will lead you to your most illumined life. And one way to think about this too is, like, on December 31st, what do you want to feel really good about having done this year and this decade? We have so much choice in our lives. I'm not kidding you. We have so much choice. And the very, very mediocre people, and I don't think that's you, but we might be going through a mediocre phase in our life. Most people don't take action. They just take one step, and then the next step they look around, what's everyone else doing, and then they just kind of follow other people. One of the things that I learned about in yoga is truly having choice and being responsible for our lives. No one else is showing up on your mat. That mat is only space for you. And you choose to show up on the mat, and you choose to do whatever you do on the mat, whether it's a restorative practice, a vinyasa practice. You choose to do what the teacher says and make adjustments. You have choice. We all have choice in our lives. And the biggest part is showing up and taking action. And I just want to support everyone who's gotten this far in this video, let alone this series of videos, to take action on your most illumined life. I'm here to support you. there's any questions, thoughts, feedback, email me. I'm a high performance coach. If you feel like coaching would help you, let me know. I only take 3 people per quarter, so that's a little bit limited, but definitely possible. Or find a coach, find a mentor, find someone who's doing what you want to be doing, and say, hey, can I follow you for a day? Can I learn what you know that you're doing? Because that's what I want to do. Like, just take action. And maybe it's just sharing this with a friend. I know that living my most illumined life is hard work. It is work that I commit to every day, every week, every month. I get warm just thinking about it because I feel so passionate sharing this with you. It's not easy. It's not a spectator sport. And if you need help, let me know. I created Illumine and the Illumine Life Directory because I know people who are supportive and good at what they do, and healers, practitioners, real estate agents who live their most illumined life, and they can help you, find a house if that's what you're looking for. Like, work with people, be around people who are living their most illumined life. And when you have those people on your team, I can assure you that you're going to be shining brighter. You're going to be closer to where you need to be, where you want to be. And it's truly not easy, but it's worth it to live your most illumined life. And that's why I feel so strongly about being really specific about what you're up to. Not just like, oh, I'm just going to live a better life. Like, great, and let's get specific. And if there's anyone in your life who you think needs this, I really encourage you to share it, or just take what you got from me and have a conversation about it. So anyways, it's my pleasure to support you. Last60 Best60 is totally a gift for anyone who needs it. So share it with anyone. And I look forward to hearing feedback from you guys. Thank you.